This is Mai Yoneyama, a Japanese illustrator who is a master of composition. She effortlessly guides our eyes to the focal point of her illustrations and uses color theory, lighting, and shadows to evoke specific emotions in her viewers. In today's video, our resident artist, Don't Flip My Canvas, will create an artwork imitating Yoneyama's style. Using the 5 techniques Mai Yoneyama employs to cover the 8 elements of composition. We've already discussed the 5 techniques in my previous video, so now we'll go straight to creating the illustration.
But we only have one problem.
Oh, what's the problem?
She has a lot of styles and we can't do them all in one video.
Oh, that I forgot. Mai Yoneyama has several lighting and coloring styles. For example, this one is different, this is different, and this one is different too, each evoking different emotions. Our artist can't cover them all in one video. So, DFMC, can you create an illustration with the same lighting style, shadows, and mood as seen in this illustration series?
Sure thing.
Then let's get started.
So I started with a sketch, and as you can see, I'm following the spiral pattern of the golden ratio. Sketch is done, and this is our line art. Yoneyama Mai likes to draw from a low angle view to highlight the under eyelid, as seen in most, if not all of her artworks. So I draw from the same angle and also highlighted the under eyelid. Okay, let's see how many elements of composition we've accomplished with our line art. The flow in the spiral pattern of the golden ratio creates rhythm. As you can see, we have a flow here from the flowers of the sakura tree, then up through the hair, leading our eyes towards the focal point, the eye, because it holds a lot of emotion. Then the hair being blown by the wind conveys movement. If you notice, most of Yoneyama's work looks like screen captures from an animation frame. They always convey movement. Capturing this detail is one of the most important aspects when trying to draw like Mai Yoneyama.
So far we have covered 2 elements of composition, rhythm and movement. That's 2 down, 6 more to go.
For the base color, I'm going to use only cool colors. If you remember from my previous video, Mai Yoneyama likes to match the expressions on the face with the colors. For example, happy expressions use complementary colors like orange and blue. Likewise, cool colors represents calmness and sadness, which is why she uses cool colors here. That's the kind of mood we're trying to capture with our art as well.
When we successfully match the colors with the feelings we try to convey in our art, we achieve unity. Nothing is out of place, and it brings us closer to the mood we're aiming for. Okay, 5 more elements to go.
Then I noticed that the hair lacked volume. Mai Yoneyama's art typically features voluminous hair, so I decided to use the default G-pen brush in CSP and paint the hair directly. Drawing eyes like Mai Yoneyama is simple, with not a lot of layers, at least relatively fewer compared to many other skilled artists. Then a new multiply layer for the shadow of the eye. Instead of a single blocky shadow, I painted the shadow in the shapes of the eyelashes to create a more interesting and dynamic effect, as seen in the eyes of Mai Yoneyama's characters. And lastly, add the highlights, and we're done with the eyes. It's so simple. Then we're going to add contrast by following the lighting in this particular illustration. This is high-key lighting, where the light is so intense that it takes over or changes the color of the hair. There is no blending. The hair and the skin color will be completely adapted to the color of the light source.
In contrast, I want to show examples of another amazing artist, Ask. The way she handles lighting is by blending the base color with the color of the light, and you'll also see secondary shadows because the light isn't as intense. If you notice the backside of the hair, you'll see secondary shadows or ambient occlusions in the areas where the light cannot penetrate. Meanwhile, in Mai Yoneyama's work, the light is so intense that you won't see secondary shadows. In this demo, the light source remains in the same position, but the intensity is being adjusted. By the way, for my next video, we're going to attempt to draw like Ask in the same format as this video, so be sure to subscribe if you want to see that. Now let's go back to the illustration. With everything from the background to the hair illuminated by bright white light and the faces darker, we achieved contrast. This can also be done vice versa. Contrast helps our eyes lock in on the focal point.
If you notice, Mai Yoneyama's illustrations look 3D despite being cel-shaded. That's because she incorporates realistic lighting techniques such as adding bounce lights and light fall-off.
Fall-off is when the light gradually gets weaker, causing the skin to get darker. One tip for painting a fall-off is to remember that it doesn't just get darker in value. There's also a hue shift. As the light gets weaker, choose a darker value and also shift the hue towards cooler colors. I learned this from one of Marco Bucci's videos. If you want to learn more about this, check out his video, link in the description.
Now let's paint the bounce light. As you already know, bounce light is a lot weaker than the original light source because, as I mentioned earlier, it gets weaker the longer it travels. It usually adapts the colors of the surrounding objects it bounces from. But we don't have that in this illustration. I will demonstrate bounce light more in my next video on how to color like Ask. I also painted the bounce light on the hair. Then I softened the hair by changing the color of the line art. I also did the same thing on the skin. Mai Yoneyama achieves focus in her illustrations by using depth of field, a technique often seen in photography. By defocusing the noisy details surrounding the focal point, it helps guide our eyes towards the focal point. I don't know exactly how Mai Yoneyama does this, but I added depth of field by going to the line art layer of the hair and the cherry blossoms. Then I went to effects, then Gaussian blur in Clip Studio Paint.
By blurring the cherry blossoms and the moving hair, our eyes are now even more locked towards the focal point, adding focus to our composition. That's 5 elements down, 3 more to go. In 1933, Japanese author Junichiro Tanizaki, known for his explorations of traditional Japanese aesthetics, wrote in his essay, In Praise of Shadows, "We find beauty not in the thing itself, but in the patterns of shadows, the light and the darkness, that one thing against another creates." This perfectly captures the essence of komorebi, the delicate interplay of sunlight filtering through leaves. Mai Yoneyama uses this light and shadow technique to make viewers of her art feel peaceful or tranquil. Or at least that's how I feel. Art is subjective, after all. Fortunately, our artist found an easy way to do this.
And then I merged all the layers for the cherry blossoms, including the line art, base colors, and texture. After merging them in one layer, I duplicated them, then changed the color to match the skin tone. I moved these duplicates to use as shadows. This technique is called komoribe, which helps evoke a tranquil feeling by adding patterns to the shadows or light instead of a single blocky straight light that we are so used to. It also helps achieve pattern in our elements of composition.
Although komorebi might seem like an overkill to use as a pattern for our elements of composition because we already have the hair and the sakura flowers, the reason why the artist included it is because of the emotion it brings to the viewers.
I added tears to the eyes to reinforce the sadness in the facial expression. To paint the tears, I used a rounded brush and erased the middle, while ensuring the part facing the light source is thicker. For the sparkle effect, I used one of Clip Studio Paint's default brushes. Mai Yoneyama also likes to add paper-like texture in her illustrations. To achieve this, simply add a new layer on top of everything, go to Effect, then select Perlin Noise. After applying the noise effect, reduce the opacity of the layer to blend it with the artwork.
And for the final touch, Yoneyama Mai adjusts the color balance. Our artist references Mai Yoneyama's artwork while doing this, and stops where he thinks the colors look close enough, although he admits this is the part of Yoneyama's art process he doesn't fully understand. If you know about it, let us know in the comments. We would appreciate that. The measurement in the golden ratio is one way to achieve balance in the composition, but Mai Yoneyama doesn't typically use it. She primarily uses the spiral pattern only. Most of her illustrations, as well as the one we created today, are centered, which is the easiest way to achieve balance. The proportion in elements of composition refers to how things fit together and relate to each other in terms of size and scale, whether big or small, nearby or distant. As for our illustration, the eyes are drawn to a size that is commonly known in the anime art style, and the size of the sakura flowers in relation to the head of the character is accurate, I think. This also includes the flowers that are a bit farther away, which are smaller due to diminution. And that's the 8 elements of composition we achieved by using the 5 techniques Mai Yoneyama uses: the golden ratio, color theory or color temperature, high key lighting, depth of field, and komorebi. If you think I missed something, let me know in the comments. In the end, our artist wasn't able to create an artwork of the same quality as Mai Yoneyama's because of the vast difference in skill levels. However, I believe our artist successfully established a clear focal point using the spiral pattern of the golden ratio, complemented by the contrast of high-key lighting and the depth of field. And I believe the artwork successfully evoked a sense of sadness and tranquility through the use of cool colors that complement the melancholic expression on the face, alongside the specific lighting and shadow techniques used. Although magenta borders between cool and warm colors, it is still within cool color temperature. Thanks for watching the video, and see you in the next one.